Welcome, seeker.
Who was Pythagoras, really? To most, his name evokes a distant memory from the classroom. The Pythagorean theorem, the right triangle, the simple geometry of high school textbooks. But hidden behind the neat lines of mathematics lies a man wrapped in shadows, part philosopher, part mystic, and perhaps even something more. Pythagoras was no mere mathematician. To his followers, he was a prophet of harmony, a seer of invisible patterns, a revealer of a divine order woven into the very fabric of existence. His teachings did not stop at numbers. They reached into the stars, the soul, and the mysteries of life and death itself. Imagine a man who believed numbers were alive, that each digit carried a vibration, a quality, a spiritual essence. For him, mathematics was not just a human invention, but a sacred language, the code of the cosmos. To know it was to touch the mind of God, and yet his life is shrouded in secrecy. Some accounts tell us he founded a brotherhood, a secretive order where disciples lived in silence, studied the mysteries of the universe, and swore oaths never to reveal what they learned. Others describe him as a miracle worker, a man who could heal with music, communicate with animals, or even recall his past lives. Was Pythagoras a philosopher, a sorcerer, or something in between? In this journey, we will peel back the layers of myth and history. We will explore how Pythagoras became more than a man, how he transformed into a legend whose influence has quietly shaped Western thought for over 2,000 years. We will look not only at his mathematical contributions, but also at his hidden philosophy, the belief in the harmony of the spheres, the immortality of the soul, and the mysterious power of numbers to reveal the structure of reality itself. But most importantly, we will uncover why his teachings matter today. For within his vision lies a timeless reminder that the universe is not chaos, but harmony. Not meaningless, but ordered. That life itself may be a grand equation, waiting to be solved. So let us step into the shadowed halls of his brotherhood. Let us listen to the whispered teachings that survived through time and ask the question, was Pythagoras the father of mathematics? Or was he the keeper of a forgotten wisdom? A wisdom that may hold the key to understanding our place in the cosmos? This is the untold story of Pythagoras. To understand Pythagoras, we must first set aside the image of him as merely a Greek mathematician. His life, stretching across the 6th century BCE, was more akin to a pilgrimage than a career. He was born on the island of Samos, yet destiny pulled him beyond the borders of Greece, into lands that guarded secrets far older than Hellenic civilization itself. Legends tell us he traveled to Egypt, where he was initiated into temple mysteries. There, he learned geometry not as a tool for surveying land, but as a sacred art, a way of mapping the divine proportions of the universe. Egyptian priests spoke of Ma'at, cosmic order, a principle Pythagoras would later weave into his own doctrine of harmony. From there, the stories say he journeyed further east, perhaps to Babylon, where the Chaldean Magi taught him the secrets of astronomy and the power of numbers in divination. Some accounts even whisper that he touched the wisdom of India, absorbing the idea of reincarnation and the eternal cycle of the soul, a belief he carried back to Greece, planting seeds that would grow in later Platonic thought. When he finally returned to the Greek world, Pythagoras was no longer just a man. He was a living vessel of many traditions, a bridge between civilizations. In the city of Croton, in southern Italy, he founded what would become known as the Pythagorean Brotherhood. This was no ordinary school. It was a secret society, half monastery, half academy, where mathematics, philosophy, and mysticism were fused into one. Disciples lived under strict rules, silence for 5 years of initiation, communal living, abstinence from certain foods, and absolute loyalty to their teacher. To them, Pythagoras was not merely a scholar, but a master of wisdom, almost divine. At the heart of his teaching was the belief that reality is structured by number. Not number in the abstract sense of modern mathematics, but number as essence. The monad, the number one, was the source of all. A dyad, two, was duality, the tension of opposites. Three was harmony, four was order, and from these sprang the sacred tetractys, a triangular arrangement of 10 points, symbolizing the unity of cosmos, soul, and divine proportion. To the Pythagoreans, numbers were not dead symbols. They were alive, pulsing with power, shaping the fabric of existence. Music, for instance, was not simply sound, but number in motion, ratios of strings creating harmony that mirrored the harmony of the spheres above. This philosophy reveals why Pythagoras is remembered not just as a mathematician, but as a philosopher of being itself. His geometry was a window into metaphysics, his arithmetic a meditation on the divine. Numbers were prayers in disguise, equations were revelations, and harmony was the fingerprint of God. Yet Pythagoras' vision was not without controversy. His brotherhood's secrecy bred suspicion among outsiders, and eventually, political strife led to their persecution. Temples were burned, disciples scattered, and Pythagoras himself forced into exile. But ideas, unlike bodies, cannot be killed. His teachings seeped into the minds of Plato, Plotinus, and later mystics of the Renaissance, shaping the Western philosophical tradition at its core. Still, we must ask, why has so much of Pythagoras' true philosophy been hidden from us? Partly because he left no writings of his own. What we know comes from later accounts, often fragmentary, sometimes mythic. The line between history and legend is blurred. Was he truly capable of recalling past lives? Did he indeed hear the music of the celestial spheres? Or were these poetic ways of expressing truths that modern science is only now rediscovering? One thing is certain, the historical Pythagoras was more than a mathematician. He was a seeker of eternal patterns, a philosopher mystic who saw the cosmos as a grand symphony of numbers, vibrating with meaning. And it is here, within this tension between fact and myth, that the deeper story of Pythagoras emerges, not as a dusty figure from antiquity, but as a timeless guide, pointing us toward a vision of reality both rational and divine. Imagine standing in a darkened temple, a single flame flickering before you. Around it, 10 pebbles are arranged in a perfect triangular form. To the Pythagoreans, this was no mere symbol. It was the tetractys, the sacred key to the universe. The tetractys began with one, the monad, his source, the ineffable unity behind all existence. From this sprang the dyad, the number 2, symbol of duality, light and darkness, male and female, order and chaos. The triad emerged as reconciliation, the harmony born when opposites find balance. And then came the tetrad, the number 4, foundation of the material world, representing stability, order, and manifestation. Together, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equaled 10, the decad, the complete cosmos. To Pythagoras, this wasn't abstract arithmetic. It was a cosmic revelation that numbers shape reality itself. The monad whispered of divinity, the dyad of conflict, the triad of resolution, the tetrad of structure. Every number held a spiritual essence, a hidden pulse of the infinite. And so his disciples learned to see the world differently. A triangle was no longer just 3 sides. It was a symbol of harmony, of the union between heaven and earth. A square was not simply 4 corners, but a doorway into order, law, and balance. Geometry became a language of the divine, a way to read the code of creation. This vision extended beyond shapes into music. Pythagoras discovered that when a string was plucked, its pitch depended on the ratio of its length. Halve the string, and the note was an octave higher. 2/3 of the string produced a perfect fifth, 3/4 a perfect fourth. Harmony was nothing less than mathematics made audible. But for Pythagoras, this was more than music. It was a mirror of the cosmos. Just as notes aligned in ratios to form beauty, so too did the stars and planets move in mathematical proportions. The ancients called this the music of the spheres. Though inaudible to the ear, it was said to resonate in the soul, a celestial harmony vibrating through every being. This teaching was revolutionary. It meant that existence was not chaos but order, not randomness but pattern. The heavens themselves were singing, and humanity through contemplation, through number, through harmony could learn to attune itself to that song. And so mathematics became a sacred path. To solve an equation was to glimpse the divine order. To contemplate a ratio was to touch eternity. The Pythagoreans believed that by aligning one's life to these principles, the soul could rise above ignorance and disorder, returning to its divine source. Yet these ideas were never taught lightly. They were guarded with silence, cloaked in allegory, whispered only to the initiated. For Pythagoras knew the danger of giving cosmic truths to unprepared minds. Numbers, after all, could be used to build temples or weapons. To reveal their true nature was to entrust disciples with the keys to creation itself. And so the brotherhood trained its followers in discipline, virtue, and self-mastery. For only those purified in body and soul could approach the mysteries of number without falling into corruption. This is the mystical heart of Pythagoras. Numbers as living truths, geometry as sacred scripture, music as the voice of the divine. A vision where science and spirituality were never separate, but one. And yet, this is only the first layer. For Pythagoras' philosophy reached even deeper, into the nature of the soul, its immortality, and its journey through countless lives. But before we step into that mystery, pause and reflect. What if the universe itself is not silent, but singing? What if your very soul is an instrument, capable of tuning itself to the harmony of the cosmos? If you've felt even a spark of this resonance, consider subscribing to this channel, for here we continue to unearth the hidden wisdom of the ancients. Share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think of the idea that numbers hold the key to reality? Because in the next section, we dive deeper into the esoteric mysteries of Pythagoras, the soul, reincarnation, and the paradox of a world where mathematics reveals not just form, but destiny itself. For Pythagoras, numbers were not merely abstractions, nor were they limited to music or geometry. They were reflections of the soul itself. The universe was a great harmony, and each soul, a note within its cosmic symphony. At the heart of his teaching was a bold, unsettling claim. The soul is immortal. It does not die with the body, but continues its journey through countless forms, returning again and again in a cycle of rebirth. This doctrine of metempsychosis, or transmigration of souls, was not unique to Pythagoras. Echoes of it can be found in ancient India and Egypt, but under his vision, it became structured, mathematical, almost architectural. The soul, he taught, could rise or fall in this cosmic cycle depending on its alignment with divine harmony. The just, the disciplined, the seekers of truth might ascend, their essence purified with each incarnation, until at last they were freed from the wheel of rebirth. But those who lived in ignorance and disharmony could descend into lesser forms, bound ever tighter to the cycle of matter. Imagine the weight of this teaching on his disciples. Every action, every word, every thought was not fleeting, but eternal. Choices rippled outward, echoing through lifetimes. To live out of balance was to condemn oneself to repetition. To live in harmony was to unlock transcendence. And so the brotherhood became not merely a school of mathematics, but a monastery of the soul. Silence, ritual, purity, and discipline were woven into daily life. Vegetarianism was often practiced, for all living beings were seen as vessels of the same immortal essence. To kill was not only violence, it was an interruption of another soul's journey. Pythagoras himself claimed to remember his past lives, recalling moments when he had walked as a warrior at Troy, or as a humble fisherman, or even as a beast of burden. For him, memory of the soul's path was proof that destiny was not random, but ordered. Yet perhaps the most radical of his teachings was this: the universe is alive with consciousness. Not just humanity, but stars, plants, even numbers themselves were imbued with spirit. Everything breathed. Everything remembered. Everything was connected in one unbroken web of existence. This vision blurred the lines between mathematics and mysticism, between science and religion. To the modern mind, such blending seems paradoxical. But to Pythagoras, there was no division. The formula of a triangle, the sound of a lyre, the motion of a star, and the longing of the soul, all were threads of the same divine tapestry. It is here that myth and philosophy intertwine. Some later traditions tell of Pythagoras as a miracle worker who could still storms with his lyre or heal the sick with harmonic tones. Whether legend or truth, these stories reveal how deeply people believed his mastery of harmony extended beyond numbers into the fabric of reality itself. But his teachings were dangerous. In a world where rulers maintained power through control and fear, the idea that the soul was free, eternal, and governed not by kings, but by cosmic law was revolutionary. This knowledge could liberate people from the chains of superstition and tyranny, and so it was guarded, hidden, and often persecuted. Over time, the brotherhood was shattered, its schools burned, its members scattered. Yet fragments of Pythagoras' vision survived, echoing through Plato, resonating in the Renaissance, whispering still in our modern fascination with mathematics is the hidden code of the universe. And here lies the paradox. Pythagoras is remembered as the man of numbers, of triangles, of equations. But behind those symbols was a far greater vision of the soul's immortality, of the harmony that binds all things, of the music that forever plays between the stars. So I ask you, what if your soul is not a fleeting spark, but an eternal note in the cosmic song? What if each choice you make is tuning or detuning your essence, shaping not just this life, but the lifetimes to come? In the next section, we move from philosophy to practice. We will explore how Pythagorean teachings can be lived today through harmony, discipline, and a life aligned to the hidden order of the cosmos. For most people, Pythagoras is a distant figure buried in dusty textbooks. But his philosophy was not meant to be studied from afar. It was designed to be lived. To walk the Pythagorean path was to treat every choice, every breath, every vibration as part of the great harmony of the cosmos. So how can we translate this into the modern world, where numbers often feel cold, mechanical, stripped of their sacred aura? The answer lies in rediscovering the disciplines that Pythagoras wove into his community. Practices that tune the soul the way a musician tunes an instrument. The first is harmony of body and mind. Pythagoras taught that the soul resonates more clearly in a body kept pure and disciplined. His followers practiced moderation in all things, avoiding excess, cultivating balance, and often embracing vegetarianism. To eat lightly, to honor life, was to align oneself with the deeper rhythms of nature. In our own time, this translates into mindfulness of what we consume, not only food, but information, emotions, and experiences. Just as discordant notes can disrupt a melody, toxic inputs cloud the soul. To live Pythagorean wisdom is to choose harmony over noise, balance over chaos. The second practice is silence. In the Pythagorean brotherhood, newcomers were required to observe years of silence before being allowed to speak. This was not punishment. It was purification. For in silence, the soul learns to listen to the whispers of intuition, to the rhythm of thought, to the quiet voice of truth within. Try it yourself. Carve out even 5 minutes each day for total silence. No devices, no distractions, only presence. In this stillness, you may begin to sense what the Pythagoreans called the inner harmony, a resonance between your soul and the cosmos. The third practice is contemplation of number and form. To Pythagoras, geometry and mathematics were not abstract puzzles, but gateways to the divine. A circle represented eternity, a triangle, the balance of opposites. The tetractys, a triangular figure of 10 points, symbolized the entire order of the universe. You do not need to solve equations to experience this. Instead, look for patterns in nature, the spirals of a shell, the branching of a tree, the symmetry of a snowflake. These forms are not random. They are the fingerprints of cosmic order, signs that the same intelligence flows through all things. Another practical path is music. Pythagoras believed that certain tones and harmonies could heal the body, calm the mind, and elevate the soul. Today, we know music influences our emotions, our nervous system, even our brainwaves. To live the Pythagorean way is to use sound consciously, choosing music that nourishes rather than agitates, singing or chanting to realign the heart with harmony. And perhaps most importantly, Pythagoras taught self-examination. At the close of each day, his disciples would reflect in silence, asking, "Where did I act in harmony? Where did I create discord? What can I improve tomorrow?" This nightly ritual is simple but profound. It transforms life into a continuous act of tuning, adjusting, refining, bringing oneself ever closer to the cosmic melody. If we live this way, Pythagoras suggests, we begin to hear the faint music that underlies all things, the harmony of the spheres, the soundless song that guides the stars and echoes within the soul. So, try one of these practices tonight. Sit in silence, reflect on your day, notice the patterns in the world around you, and ask yourself, not as a student of math, but as a seeker of wisdom, am I living in tune with the harmony of the cosmos? In the final part of this journey, we will weave everything together. The man, the myth, the numbers, and the philosophy, all pointing to a truth that may change the way you see your life, your soul, and the universe itself. We began with a man shrouded in legend, a wandering sage who heard the music of the cosmos. To the world, Pythagoras is remembered as a mathematician. Yet to those who look deeper, he is revealed as something more, a philosopher of harmony, a mystic who saw numbers not as lifeless symbols, but as the living language of the divine. His teachings were never about equations on a page. They were about alignment between the soul and the universe, the seen and the unseen, the finite and the infinite. Numbers, forms, and sounds were tools, not ends in themselves. They were keys to unlock the great truth that reality is not chaos, but order, not silence, but song. And here lies the secret. Every life is part of this cosmic harmony. Every choice we make is a note in the symphony of existence. When we live in balance, when we cultivate silence, when we recognize patterns, we are not merely surviving, we are participating in the eternal dance of the cosmos. Pythagoras reminds us that the universe is not indifferent. It sings. And within each of us is the power to attune ourselves to that music, to rise above the noise of daily life and hear the deeper rhythm that connects star to stone, number to soul, eternity to the fleeting moment. So as we leave this exploration, I invite you to pause, close your eyes, breathe deeply. Ask yourself, what note am I playing in the great symphony of the world? Am I in harmony, or am I in discord? If the answer unsettles you, take heart, for harmony is not a gift, it is a practice. One you can begin right now, with the smallest act of awareness, the gentlest turn toward balance. This is the legacy of Pythagoras, that mathematics and philosophy are not separate, but united. That numbers conceal mysteries. And that life itself is a sacred geometry, unfolding in patterns both infinite and divine. If this journey stirred something within you, I invite you to subscribe, share your reflections in the comments, and continue walking with me through the labyrinth of hidden wisdom. Together, we may rediscover the forgotten music of the soul. For now, remember this: you are not an observer of the cosmos. You are part of its song.